Ko Moon-young drives to OK Psychiatric Hospital to pick up Kwon, a patient known for exposing himself in public. She makes fun of his tiny ding-dong, shoves him into her car, and speeds off. On the way out, caregiver Sang Tae blocks her path, but she swerves past him. Determined to stop her, Sang Tae borrows Namjuri's car and chases her. Moon-young's real aim is to bring Kwon to his father, a prominent assemblyman. They arrive at his public speech, where Kwon interrupts, accusing his father of neglect and blaming him for his mental breakdown. "If you can't care for your own son, how can you care for the country?" he declares. The scandal spreads nationwide, destroying the assemblyman's image. The police arrest Kwon, and though his mother slaps him, he's oddly happy to receive her attention. Back at the hospital, the furious assemblyman threatens to shut it down. A flashback shows Sang Tae as a boy, proudly bringing home his Taekwondo red belt, only to be scolded because his autistic brother, Sang Tae, had been bullied that day. In anger, Sang Tae wished his brother dead and ran off. Sang Tae followed, returning the belt, and they played on a frozen river until the ice gave way. Sang Tae fell in. Sang Tae first ran, then dove in to save him. Nearby, Moon-young watched, plucking petals as she debated helping. In the end, she chose to act. Moon-young tosses a large chunk of ice into the water, helping Sang Tae pull himself out. He thanks her, but she walks away without a glance. Sang Tae falls for her and brings flowers, but her antisocial nature surfaces. She cruelly tears a butterfly apart, asking if he could still love her after that. Frightened, he runs. 20 years later, Moon-young is a famous author, admired even by Sang Tae, Sang Tae's autistic brother. At a book signing, Sang Tae becomes fascinated by a child's dinosaur toy, but the child's father shoves him and yanks his hair, triggering a traumatic reaction. Sang Tae rushes over to calm him, covering him with his jacket. Moon-young confronts the father, grabs his hair to prove her point, and shuts down his wife when she tries to interfere. The incident makes headlines, painting Moon-young as violent, but she's unfazed. Later, outside the signing, she tells Sang Tae she feels she's seen him before. An editor warns Sang Tae to stay away from her, which she overhears. Chasing the editor, she's propositioned in exchange for his continued work on her books. Enraged, she's about to stab him with a pen, but remembers Sang Tae's words, shoving him instead, sending him tumbling down the stairs and breaking his neck. As the ambulance takes him away, Sang Tae holds Moon-young from behind, guiding her to breathe and calm down. But as she follows his instructions, she begins to feel an unexpected surge of attraction toward him. Moon-young feels a strange pull toward Sang Tae, as if an old memory has stirred. She asks him to join her team, but he refuses, citing other responsibilities. His avoidance only deepens her interest. She orders her assistant, Yu-ji, to dig up everything about him and learns he's a caregiver at OK Psychiatric Hospital in the small city of Songjin. Determined, she travels there and surprises him in the locker room, admiring him until he escorts her out, only to be spotted by Namjuri, who secretly likes him. To provoke Juri, she touches Sang Tae, but he quickly steps away. After work, she offers him a ride. He declines, so she warns she'll take him by force next time. Days later, she quits her writing career to work as a lecturer at the hospital, teaching patients through storytelling. She shocks them by claiming fairy tales aren't comforting fantasies, but cruel reflections of reality, insisting happiness comes from facing truth head-on. Impressed, the patients admire her boldness. Afterward, Sang Tae asks her if she truly believes fear can only be overcome by confronting it. She turns the question back, guessing he hides softness beneath his tough exterior. Teasing, she loudly asks if he wants to sleep with her, embarrassing him. Irritated, he drags her into a private room, telling her to leave him alone. She calls him a hypocrite, warning that living in fear means never truly living. As she leaves, she spots her father, Ko Dae-hwan, in a wheelchair, where he's been for over a decade, but she walks past without a word. On her way out, Sonbil reminds Moon-young that working at the hospital means caring for her father too, but Moon-young dismisses it without a thought. Meanwhile, Sang Tae takes Sang Tae to director Oh Ji-wong for a psychiatric assessment. Reviewing Sang Tae's drawings, Ji-wong offers him a job painting a mural on the hospital wall, promising a bigger reward for better work. That night, Sang Tae adds coins to his piggy bank, revealing to Sang Tae that he's saving for an RV so they can stop moving every spring and escape from the trauma of witnessing their mother's murder. The only detail he remembers is a butterfly, which has haunted him ever since. Sang Tae hugs him, vowing they'll overcome it together. The next day, Moon-young forces Sang Tae into her car. When he tries to walk away, she calls out, "I love you," repeating it playfully despite his silence. That night, she returns to her long-abandoned mansion built by her father for her mother to write in solitude. Waiting for her is Lee Sang-in, CEO of Songsong Publishing, urging her to return to Seoul to finish her book or risk their bankruptcy. She refuses, saying she has other priorities. That night, she dreams of her mother brushing her hair, then sees blood seeping from the basement and her mother's corpse inside, leaving her with the chilling sense that her spirit still lingers. The next day, Sang Tae begins work on his mural. Moon-young arrives unexpectedly, delighting him. As they take selfies, Namjuri pointedly asks why she's there without a class scheduled. Moon-young says she came to see Sang Tae. Admiring Sang Tae's art, she refuses his request for money, then playfully tugs his hair until Sang Tae steps in, grabbing his hand and warning her to stay away from his brother. Sang Tae scolds Sang Tae for sitting with Moon-young and orders him to avoid her. Moon-young notices a slap mark on Sang Tae's face. In private, he admits it's from Assemblyman Kwan's father, who threatened to shut down the hospital. Blaming her for trouble, he tells her to stay out of his life, calling her an empty vessel without emotions. Rejected, Moon-young is left heartbroken. Determined to keep her word, she visits her father, only for him to grab her by the neck and call her a monster. Bystanders pull him away, but she walks off in sorrow. On the bus, Sang Tae sees her in the rain, then later reads her book, The Zombie Kid. The tale of a mother sacrificing herself for her zombie son moves him to tears, stirring memories of his own mother. When his friend Jae-soo mentions seeing Moon-young walking, Sang Tae rushes out into the downpour, finds her barefoot and soaked, and wraps his jacket around her. He takes her to a motel, asking for separate rooms, but she pushes for one. With her purse left in her car and his wallet forgotten, they're forced to leave. He brings her to his modest rental in Namjudi's mother's house, warning her to keep her stay secret and insisting it's out of obligation, not romance. Gang tells Moon-young to rest and leave in the morning, but she refuses and flirts with Gang. Frustrated, Gang scolds her. Meanwhile, Sang Tae is upset from Gang's harsh words and hits his head against the wall. Gang feels guilty, apologizes, and calms him. Gang declines Sunduk's invitation to eat, bringing food to Moon-young instead. She makes advances, which he rejects. Jae-soo arrives, but Gang sends him away to avoid trouble. Moon-young tries to seduce Gang all night. He pushes her away. In the morning, Jiri is shocked to find Moon-young there. A fight breaks out between Jiri and Mong, ending with Gang telling Mong to leave and giving her money, which she throws away. Jiri confides in her mother's son, who reassures her that Gang isn't truly interested in Moon-young and encourages hope. Sang-ae begins painting but refuses to add butterflies, chasing Director Oh around in anger, amusing everyone. Gang-ae warns Jiri not to expect much from him as he's unsure about his future. Jiri admits she's followed him before and wants to at least be allowed to like him now. Moon-young hires Sang-ae as her lead designer at her mansion. Later, Gang learns Mong took Sang-ae and calls her. She gives her mansion's address, which Gang already knows. A flashback shows Gang giving flowers to Moon-young 20 years ago. She angrily stomps them after her mother stops her. Now Gang enters the mansion again while Moon-young watches. Gang confronts Moon-young, saying the house brings back old memories. He recalls bringing her flowers 20 years ago, surprising Moon-young, who realizes he knew her all along. She asks why he never mentioned their past. Gang says he wanted to leave it behind. Moon-young urges him to stay and work on her books with Sutha, but Gang insists on moving on. As Moon-young tries to stop him, she slips and Gang catches her. Meanwhile, Sang-ae calls Gang downstairs, showing a new job agreement he signed. Gang demands it, but Sang-ae refuses, leading to a fight where Sang-ae throws Gang out. Moon-young tells Sang-ae to stop, offering Gang help, but he refuses and leaves.
Back home, Gang sees the torn agreement and realizes Sang Tae signed it to buy an RV for them, not for money. This moves him deeply. Later, Sang Tae falls asleep waiting for Gang, covered by Moon-young's blanket. The next day, Lee Sang-in tries to enter Moon-young's mansion, but Sang Tae blocks him. Sang-in forces his way in but falls. He worries about Moon-young and wants to take her back to Seoul. Moon-young says she's working on her book and Sang Tae is her art designer. Gang arrives with his belongings and Moon-young is pleased. Sang Tae apologizes and Gang forgives him. They settle in, clean the house, and prepare a meal. Moon-young feels joyful and less lonely with them. Later, at the hospital, Moon-young lectures, Sang Tae paints, and Gang Tae works. The director asks Gang Tae why he fears butterflies, reminding him of a killer who wore a butterfly pin and killed his mother. On her way to class, Moon-young meets Kwang Yena, a patient who believes Moon-young is her long-lost daughter who died years ago. Shocked, Moon-young denies this, revealing her daughter died in an accident, but Yuna insists otherwise. Gang Tae intervenes, taking Yuna outside, trying to calm her. Yuna is devastated by the revelation and faints. In a flashback, Dawon shows Moon-young's mother around the mansion where they all seem happy. One day, Moon-young finds her mother's lifeless body in the basement. That night, she dreams her mother's ghost threatens to kill the brothers if they don't leave. Panicked, Moon-young wakes up screaming. Gang Tae comforts her and promises to stay. The next morning, Gang Tae explains he stayed to care for her. Sang Tae reads Moon-young's story, The Cheerful Dog, a tale of a dog dreaming of freedom, inspiring Moon-young to try cutting her long hair, a reminder of her cruel mother. Hearing her mother's voice again, she angrily smashes a mirror. Later, Gang Tae offers Moon-young medicine, but she refuses, wanting to avoid relying on it. At dinner, she playfully eats raw meat, joking it will cook inside her. That night, exhausted, she asks Gang Tae to carry her. A call interrupts, and she jokes they're on a date. The next day, Yuna wakes from a coma, remembering her daughter's tragic death and feeling guilty. Gang Tae recalls his own mother's harshness, but learns she was burdened with raising a special child like Sang Tae. She advises Gang Tae to focus on good memories of their mother and encourages him to eat. Emotional, Gang Tae starts eating while tearing up. Later, he returns to find Moon-young waiting. He asks her to close her eyes and surprises her with a doll he made long ago for Sang Tae, named Mang Tae, which he says will keep bad dreams away. Moon-young happily accepts it. That night, Gang Tae's memories of their mother flood back, her buying his favorite noodles and sheltering both brothers under an umbrella during a storm. He realizes she loved him as much as Sang Tae. Overwhelmed, he hugs Sang Tae tearfully. The next day, Moon-young learns her class is suspended after she frightened Yuna. She visits Yuna and takes the shawl Yuna's daughter had given her, lifting a burden from Yuna's heart. Later, Sang Tae praises Moon-young's kindness. At home, Moon-young cuts her long hair, symbolizing letting go of her past. When Gang Tae arrives, he's surprised to see Moon-young cutting her hair and asks to help finish. As he cuts, her face lights up and he tells her she looks beautiful. Later, Sang Tae discovers Moon-young has his doll, Mang Tae, and asks for it back. She refuses, leading to a playful pillow fight that ends with the doll torn in two. Angry, Moon-young storms off. Gang Tae comforts Sang Tae, telling him he doesn't need the doll because Gang Tae is always there for him. When asked if he wants Gang Tae or Mang Tae, Sang Tae chooses Gang Tae. The next day, Moon-young, Gang Tae, and Sang Tae go to work and meet Judy and Sun Woo, the hospital chef, who invites them to dinner. Moon-young later lectures on the Beauty and the Beast as Stockholm Syndrome, not love, where a captive falls in love with their captor. However, patient Julie disagrees passionately, saying it's a story about love and that love is essential to life. Her emotional words deeply affect Moon-young. Later, Moon-young steps outside to smoke, where Julie's abusive ex-husband unexpectedly arrives, begging for forgiveness and promising not to hurt her again. Julie firmly rejects him, declaring she's in love with someone else now. Enraged, the ex-husband assaults Julie. Seeing this, Moon-young throws a can at the ex-husband and confronts him, demanding why men like him hurt their wives. The man slaps Moon-young, causing her to fall. Just then, Sang Tae rushes in and fiercely beats up the ex-husband. Hospital staff witness the fight, and head nurse Park Hongja reports Sang Tae's actions to Director Oh. Although Director Oh doesn't want to fire Sang Tae, he is forced to due to the situation. Sang Tae, however, feels relieved, as if freed. He excitedly tells Moon-young he's quit his job and reminds her of their promise to take a trip together. Moon-young agrees, but when Sang Tae says the trip will only last one day, she grows frustrated. She speeds the car to scare him, and when he doesn't react, she angrily kicks him out and drives away.
That night, Sang Tae agrees to spend the night with Moon-young, admitting he struggles to control his emotions around her. Just as they are about to kiss, a deer interrupts, ruining the moment. The next day, Moon-young dresses up extravagantly for their trip, insisting it makes things fun. At the mountains, she hesitates crossing a high bridge due to her fear of heights. Gang suggests she sing to calm down, but her off-key singing makes him stop her. Despite setbacks, they enjoy their day together. They see Juri and her boyfriend Choi Daniel, who has escaped a psychiatric hospital, to be with her. Juri must leave for America soon for safety. Choi asks Gang not to report him, blaming Gang for Juri's troubles. Gang promises to stay quiet. Moon-young secretly buys tickets for all, teasing Gang when he's upset she didn't book separate rooms. Later, Moon-young reveals that Juri was her only childhood friend who protected her from bullies. As time passes, Juri makes new friends and distances herself from Moon-young due to her behavior, ending their friendship. Moon-young says she doesn't need friends because she has Sang Tae. In a conversation, Gang drinks what he thinks is juice, but is actually alcohol, making him drunk. Despite this, he tries to control himself. Moon-young flirts playfully, but Gang pushes her away, leading to a fight through the night. The next morning, Gang brings flowers, and this time Moon-young happily accepts, and he kisses her. Juri prepares to leave for America, asking Choi Daniel to join her. Daniel, emotionally unstable, promises to come after treatment. They share a heartfelt farewell. Later, Daniel tells Kang Pai-lung about the day and accidentally reveals Gang and Moon-young's relationship. Chang spreads the news, upsetting Sang-ai, who feels betrayed. Sang-ai angrily confronts Gang, recalling painful childhood memories when Gang once wished him dead. Gang tries to explain, but Sang-ai remains hurt and distrustful. Sang-ai, overwhelmed by pain, accuses Gang of wanting him dead, shouting in an emotional outburst that breaks Gang's heart. Gang tearfully insists he never meant harm. The hospital staff sedates Sang-ai and places him in a separate room. Gang waits anxiously outside, but becomes deeply depressed when Sang-ai doesn't come out. Moon-young tries to stop him, but Gang, overwhelmed by guilt, blames her and pushes her away, spiraling further. Later, Gang confides in Juri, sharing how much he enjoyed his time with Moon-young, but feels torn because he must care for Sang-ai. Meanwhile, head nurse Park gives Sang-ai a precious book written by Mang's mother, which Sang-ai reads curiously. The next day, Moon-young pleads with Gang to be with her, but Gang refuses, saying his duty is to care for Sang-ai. Moon-young tearfully asks when he will start living for himself. That night, Moon-young feels deeply lonely. Moon-young sends Gang many messages, but he doesn't reply. Feeling lonely, she's surprised when Juri arrives to collect Gang's belongings. Moon-young invites Juri for a drink, but Juri gets drunk, slaps her, and accuses her of stealing Gang's love before passing out. Gang, filled with guilt, breaks down and apologizes to Sang-ai for lying, who then forgives him. At the hospital, patient Park Ok-ran claims to be Doon's wife, the woman he tried to kill. Doon outlashes, but Gang stops him. On Moon-young's birthday, she waits outside Gang's house. Duke invites her to dinner, where she enjoys sundu soup before going home. Gang learns Park Ok-ran has escaped and fears she may go to Moon-young's house. Gang rushes to Moon-young's house in panic as Park Ok-ran has arrived, claiming to be Moon-young's real mother. Moon-young doesn't believe her, but Park Ok-ran leaves a letter and while trying to stop her, accidentally injures Moon-young's hand. Gang embraces her, worried, and when he asks about Park Ok-ran, she says she just left. Hurt, Moon-young thinks Gang came only to catch Park Ok-ran, not for her, and retreats to her room. Gang reassures her, and wishes her a happy birthday, making her happy. Later, Gang falls ill, and Moon-young cares for him. He opens up about Sang-ai's traumatic past and the impact of their mother's murder. Moon-young visits Sang-ai at Jisoo's restaurant, encouraging him to become an illustrator again. Despite her efforts, Sang-ai remains distant and angry, calling her a liar and running away after she invites him to eat pizza.
Due to Gang's handsomeness, a group of girls flirts with him at Jisoo's restaurant. Jisoo sends a picture to Moon-young, who becomes furious and rushes there, scaring off the girls. Gang tries to calm her down, Nearby, Gang smiles at children playing, commenting on their innocence. Moon-young teasingly asks if he wants kids with her, making Gang blush and change the subject. Later, while grocery shopping, Moon-young loudly declares she wants to be the mother of his children, embarrassing Gang. Back home, she hugs him tightly, warning she won't let him sleep anywhere but her room. Gang hesitates but agrees. That night, Gang insists on sitting in a chair instead of the bed. Moon-young drinks alone, becoming tipsy and opening up about her complicated feelings toward her mother. Gang falls silent, reflecting on her words. The next day, Sang Tae, traveling with Pilong, witnesses Pilong panic at construction noise, triggering his traumatic war memories. Sang Tae quickly comforts Pilong, calming him down and taking him to the hospital. Director Oh-ji Wong praises Sang Tae and, seeing his progress, urges him to recall the night their mother was murdered. Sang Tae's memories returned. He saw his mother dead with her throat slit, killed by a woman wearing a coat with a butterfly badge. The killer warned Sang Tae to forget or be killed too. Despite reporting it years ago, the case went cold. Gang recognizes the butterfly badge on Moon-young's mother's coat, realizing she is the murderer. Overwhelmed, Gang punches a door, injuring his hand. When Moon-young visits and sees the injury, Gang refuses to talk and lashes out. Later, he confides in director Oh-ji Wong, torn between his love for Moon-young and the truth that her mother killed his. Gang feels trapped, knowing revenge would only hurt Moon-young. The director advises Gang to stay strong, though little can be done. Overwhelmed, Gang looks at his mother's picture and cries, locking himself away from Sang Tae and Moon-young. Days later, during a group photo planned by Sang Tae and Moon-young, Gang unexpectedly appears in a suit, delighting Moon-young as they take pictures together. Soon after, Moon-young's father, Daewon, dies, leaving her devastated. At the hospital, Sang Tae becomes distressed when someone draws a butterfly on his painting, the same butterfly from his mother's killer's coat. Moon-young realizes her mother wore that badge, breaking down as she understands her mother is alive and a threat. Panicked, she flees the hospital, with Gang trying to calm her. Later, director Oh-ji Wong shows Gang's CCTV footage revealing the butterfly badge was made by head nurse Park Hong-ja, confirming she is Moon-young's mother and the killer who slowly tortured Daewon before his death. Park Hong-ja plans to kill Moon-young. Desperate, Moon-young asks Gang to tell her the truth. Hesitant at first, Gang admits Park Hong-ja killed his and Sang Tae's mother. Devastated, Moon-young cries and repeatedly apologizes, but Gang reassures her it's her mother's crime, not hers. Burdened by guilt, Moon-young says she can't live with Gang and Sang Tae anymore, fearing constant reminders of her mother's pain. Gang refuses to leave her side despite her insistence. Sang Tae gently feeds Moon-young, who hasn't eaten in days, and keeps apologizing, though Sang Tae doesn't understand why. The next day, Park Hong-ja calls Gang to meet alone. Gang's anger rises, but he controls it. Hong-ja reveals she sedated Sang Tae to prevent interference, and demands Gang leave Moon-young and disappear, or she will kill everyone. Gang refuses to abandon Moon-young to someone so cruel. When Gang asks why Park Hong-ja wants Moon-young alone, she coldly says Moon-young is her creation and won't let anyone ruin her masterpiece. Gang accuses her of treating her daughter like an object. Hong-ja recalls killing Gang's mother in a rage, triggered by a pen. Her mother had worked as a maid and once suggested Moon-young needed help. Hong-ja felt insulted and killed her mother over it. Gang, enraged, attacks Hong-ja, but she provokes him to kill her, warning it would ruin his relationship with Moon-young. Hesitating, Gang pulls back and Hong-ja sedates him. Moon-young arrives and tries to stab Hong-ja, but Gang intercepts the blow, injuring his hand. Sang Tae knocks Hong-ja unconscious with a book, police arrest her, and director Oh-ji Wong declares her game over. Hong-ja, smiling, says her purpose is fulfilled and Moon-young and Gang will never be together. Days pass, and Moon-young avoids Gang, feeling guilty over his mother's murder and falling into depression. Unable to reach her, Gang asks Juri to bring Moon-young to her home. Juri tricks Moon-young into visiting her mother, Sang Tae, who is healthy and has prepared a special meal to cheer her up. Sang Tae advises Moon-young to let go of the past and stop punishing herself for her mother's sins. Back home, Sang Tae shows Moon-young a drawing of Dang smiling, bringing her to tears. At the hospital, Gang plants a tree in his mother's memory. Moon-young apologizes to the tree, but Gang reassures her she's not to blame. Later, Gang follows Moon-young, professing his love and kissing her sincerely. Feeling happy, Moon-young agrees to stay. Together, they decide to leave the past behind. Moon-young starts writing a new book, with Sang Tae's help, teasing Gang by playfully keeping him out of the story. After months of hard work, Sang Tae publishes the storybook through his company. Overwhelmed, he reads it aloud at their mother's memorial, tearfully telling her, "I've become a professional artist." Gang is moved and hugs him. The book tells of 3 children whose faces were stolen by a witch. They journey to reclaim their true faces, only to realize it was their happiness that was lost, and they regain it. At the publication ceremony, Moon-young and Sang Tae playfully argue about who will tell the story, making everyone laugh. The shadows of their past lift, filling their hearts with joy. Sang Tae finishes a hospital mural and is rewarded with an RV by director Oh-ji Wong, honoring the brothers' resilience. Moon-young, Gang, and Sang Tae set off on an adventure in the RV. Sang Tae, sensing they need privacy, accepts a new job and leaves with Gang's tearful farewell, marking the end of their emotional journey.